1.5 cups of all-purpose flour, 1/4 cup of cocoa, 1 cup of sugar, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, and a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Right, now we're going to take and we're going to mix these up. I just used a spoon, and you just want to mix it up until all the dry ingredients are well incorporated, as you see here. Alright, once that's done, you put it to the side, and then we're going to do our liquid ingredients. So I have 1 cup of room temperature water, 6 tablespoons of vegetable oil, and 1 tablespoon of white vinegar, or you could use lemon juice. So kind of mix those together, and then we're going to combine the liquid to the dry ingredients. Alright, you could use a mixer here or a spoon, because you just want to get it until, just mix it until everything's incorporated. But you don't want to over mix your cake mix, or else you're going to form gluten, which is going to change the flavor and the texture. Alright, so you see I did not take very long at all to get that mixed up. You want to make sure like all the large lumps are gone. There we go. Alright, once we make sure there aren't too many lumps, you want to go ahead and take a rubber spatula and clean that spoon off, and then we're going to use that spatula to put our cake mix into our prepared pan that has been greased and floured. Alright, so you want to clean that off pretty good. Make sure you don't eat cake batter, even though there's no eggs in it. Flour can give you salmonella poisoning, so you want to avoid eating raw cake batter. Alright, so I'm scraping that out really good. You don't want to waste any of your cake batter, so make sure it all goes into your pan. Just like that. See? Scraped it out as good as I could. Alright, so that'll go in the oven at 350 degrees. And I picked it up about a ½ inch and dropped it to knock any air bubbles out. Now in this, we're putting powdered sugar, 1 cup of powdered sugar, a tablespoon of unsweetened cocoa, and then in there we're going to add 2 tablespoons of butter. And I think this probably would have worked better had I used a fork instead of that whisk, but I made it work afterwards. So then you're going to have a little milk on the side, and then you're just going to pour a few drops of milk into this mixture until it forms the frosting you want. So the consistency you want in your frosting. So kind of mixed it up and then poured a little bit of milk and then mixed it a little bit to see what my consistency was. So you want to be careful with your milk. As you can see, I just poured a little bit at a time until I got about the consistency I wanted. So I will be adding a little drizzle of vanilla. I guess you could say it was about a teaspoon of vanilla that I'll add to this in just a minute. So mixing. Now see, that's the problem I was having. The butter was sticking in the middle of that. If I had used a fork, I wouldn't have had that issue. But I made it work. Okay. So it still formed a nice smooth frosting. You see that? Alright. So there goes my vanilla, my little drizzle. There we go. Mix that in. And then we'll be ready to frost the cake. Alright, so there we are, frosting the cake. Alright, and you do want your cake to cool completely before you frost it, or it will just absorb your frosting. Alright, now it's time to cut your cake. Now, Mom said that this cake actually tastes better a couple days after it bakes. I guess it's because of the vinegar that's in there, but the vinegar, it reacts to the baking soda. So there I am. I'm trying to show you how squishy it is, but it's stuck to the frosting. Me teasing you a little bit. So there you have it, a chocolate cake made from scratch without eggs. Thank you for stopping by Chef Carter's Cooking Corner. I'll see you next time. And while you're here, why not check out some of my playlist? Take care. Show you the strudel topping. Alright, so first thing I did was I took 1/4 cup of butter, and it should be at room temperature. Mine was not quite there. It was soft, but not as soft as I wanted it to be. So I kind of worked that out first. Alright, now once you get that done, you want to add a 1/2 cup of flour, 1/4 cup of oats, and 1/4 cup of brown sugar. And then you want to add just a pinch of salt. Now once you have all your ingredients together, you want to cut them in until they are well blended and pretty much uniform. So you'll see you'll have uniform sized crumbs. So this does take a few minutes, But take your time on this so you can have the perfect strudel. Alright, the next part I'm going to demonstrate for you is the oatmeal bread part itself. So with that, you're going to take a large bowl and you're going to add 1 cup of oats, 2 cups of flour, 2 1/4 teaspoons of baking powder, and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Now you're going to blend this together until all the dry ingredients are well incorporated. Alright, now in a small bowl, you're going to place 2 eggs, 1/4 of a cup of oil. Now I put my oil in the cup first because the next item I'm going to add is 1/4 cup of honey. And what that oil does is it lubricates the cup, and you'll see in just a moment how all the honey will come out. So there goes my honey. So you need 1/4 cup of honey. And I got a little overzealous. I got just a little bit extra there. You see it kind of pouring over. But it'll be okay. But look how clean the cup is. So you know you have all your honey that goes in the recipe and not sticking to the cup. And watch, see? Very clean. Alright. Now, we're going to mix those 2 ingredients up. And then I'll end up adding my butter in here. Alright, so let me add 2 tablespoons of melted butter. And then we're going to mix these ingredients up pretty good before we add those to the dry ingredients. Alright, so let's go ahead and add those to the dry ingredients. Then we're going to add the 1 cup of milk. Now you want to mix this together just until everything is moist. You don't want to over mix this, or you'll get gluten and then you have a tough piece of bread that won't taste as good. And that's always the key when you're making these quick breads. Once everything is mixed, you want to add that to a pan that has been greased and floured. And once you have it in the pan, you want to add your streusel topping. And once the streusel topping is on, you'll put that in a oven at 350 degrees for somewhere around 35 to 45 minutes. You could actually use a loaf pan. If you do use a loaf pan, it may take a little bit longer to cook, maybe an additional 10 minutes. But I chose to do a cake pan because at the moment I don't have a pan. Alright, so here is my completed oatmeal bread. So you can see the crumb topping. Alright, so let me cut some nice little wedges. Alright, so there's my bread. And see how soft and spongy it is? I'm going to give you a close-up of the crumb here. There's some nice crumb there. Doesn't that look good? So it's slightly sweet, but not too sweet. This goes well with coffee or tea. So in a bowl, you want to put 1.5 cups of sugar plus 1 tablespoon of sugar and 3 eggs. Now you can use an electric mixer to mix this. I chose to just use a whisk. And you want to whisk it until it's light yellow in color. So it's like a lemony yellow, as you can see here. It did take me a few minutes to do, and I even switched from hand to hand, almost knocked the camera down, but I managed to do it. Alright, so you can see that it does get thicker as you mix this. Alright, once you're done with that, you're going to want to add 1 1/4 cup of mayonnaise and a tablespoon of vanilla. So there's my 1/4 cup of mayonnaise and my 1 cup of mayonnaise. Alright, now you want to mix this well, incorporate it all. See that? Looking thicker. Now you want to add 2 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour, 3/4 a cup of cocoa powder unsweetened, and then we add 1/4 a teaspoon of baking powder, 1 3/4 teaspoon of baking soda, and a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Alright, now you want to blend these together. And so it takes a minute to do. You could use an electric mixer, but I was just feeling in the mood to do this by hand completely. Wanted to challenge myself. So there we go. We're mixing it, and it is coming into a consistent batter there. So it's going to look like a brownie batter once you mix this. So is it looking good to you? Yeah. So what I'm doing is I'm scooping from the bottom and then placing the unmixed batter on top, and then scooping again. Alright, once it's mixed, you're going to add 1 1/3 cup of hot water. And then you're going to blend that together. I would suggest doing this in 2 stages because it just seemed very awkward mixing that up with all of the water at one time. So I would probably do about 2 stages. Alright, now I have my prepared pan. I'm going to put my cake mix in there, scraping out as much as I can. Now this will go into a 350-degree oven for approximately 25 to 30 minutes until a toothpick inserted in the middle comes out clean. And then you're going to want it to cool for about 20 minutes. and then finish it up with this frosting, which I'm going to be honest, I didn't measure anything, so it was about 2 tablespoons of butter, 3 tablespoons of cream cheese, about a teaspoon of vanilla, and then I mixed those 3 ingredients together. And then, oh, I forgot about my little pinch of salt. And then mix those 4 ingredients together. So again, I didn't feel like using my mixer, so I just used a fork here. And it will work. Look. Blending. And we're blending. Blending. Alright, so then I'm going to incorporate into this mixture a little bit of milk. And you just drizzle the milk as you need it. And then there's 1 cup of powdered sugar. Altogether, I will be adding 2 cups of powdered sugar, but I wanted to do it in a couple stages to make the mixing easier. So then I'm going to add some milk into this. As you can see, it's getting a little difficult to mix. So just a little drizzle. Now it's going to seem like I'm adding a little too much milk, but remember I said 2 cups of powdered sugar would go in here. So this is making it nice and smooth. And then we add the next cup of powdered sugar. And now you can see that it's going to form frosting. Alright, so I thought it was a little thick, so I just added a couple of drops of milk at a time. Cream actually makes this frosting taste better, but it's up to you. You could even put sour cream in it so you have like a sweet and sour sort of frosting going on. Alright, so now it's time to frost the cake. So I'm adding a few spoonfuls here and there across the middle. You know, whatever you need to do to get the cake frosted. And so, you know, you could make more frosting for the cake. It's up to you, you know. My mom, she doesn't like a lot of frosting, so I didn't make a lot of frosting for this cake. She just likes enough on the top to add a little extra sweetness. Alright. It's time to cut the cake. So this cake did cut very well. And it came out of the pan quite easily. I just wanted to be sure that it came out in one piece. So I was more careful. So there we go. It's coming up. Very carefully move it to the plate. So now I'm going to show you how moist it looks. And it looks nice and rich, but it does look kind of dry. So now I'm going to tease you without realizing it's too high. Oh, okay, now I put it low for you. Alright, would you like a bite? Or do you want some of this? Let's see what the next little piece will look like. So it is nice and rich. It's nice and spongy like a cake should be. And Mom said it did taste good. It was a little dry for her taste, she said. So there we have it, mayonnaise cake. So thank you for stopping